Yes, what's good? It's Woog. We've got Edgar Berlanga, 23 wins and 1 loss, taking on Hamzah Sheeraz, 21 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw. This is the main event of this upcoming Saturday fight card that's taking place in Queens, New York, Louis Armstrong Stadium. This is a significant event in boxing, bringing boxing to Queens. And although my favorite fight on that fight card, which I also did a preview for, Shakur Stevenson defending his belt against William Zepeda, Edgar Berlanga versus Hamzah Sheeraz. When they announced this Riyadh season matchup, I looked at it on paper and I'm like, I knew Hamzah Sheeraz was going up from 160 to 168. He had announced that he intended to do so. I didn't think that his first opponent in this new division was going to be the super hard-hitting, big 168 pounder, Edgar Berlanga, who obviously made his name with those 16 first-round knockouts in a row to kick off his career. He basically became a boxing celeb, not only way before he ever fought for a title, which he eventually would against Canelo, but before he even beat anybody who we really recognize. He was already a name because, again, 16 not only knockouts, but first-round knockouts. And Edgar Berlanga, it's fair to say, he's one of the most kind of hated on fighters in the sport. Now, look, hated on isn't the same across the board. Like, I think that Devin Haney unfairly gets hated on. Edgar Berlanga, I feel like he's earned some of that. Like, I mean, it's not only the New Yorker bravado, right? I mean, he's from Brooklyn. And if you know anything about Brooklyn, you know that there's a certain demeanor that a lot of the cats carry. It's not only that, though. It's the fact that he's been blessed with big opportunities. Again, see Canelo Alvarez, without beating anybody who remotely merits that type of opportunity, especially when the whole boxing public wanted to see, well, basically the whole boxing public wanted to see for years, Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez. Canelo's like, no, I'm not going to fight David. I'm going to fight Jaime Munguia. No, I'm not going to fight David. I'm going to fight, in this case, Edgar Berlanga. So we're just kind of rolling our eyes like, oh God, like we got to endure another one of these. Not that Munguia or Berlanga are terrible fighters by any stretch. It's just that there was just somebody who was way more clearly deserving of that. And Edgar Berlanga, you get the feeling that his popularity has outpaced his in-ring accomplishments. I was saying the same thing about Ryan Garcia for years. His popularity, basically he became famous before he became good. And we're still kind of putting the pieces together to determine whether Edgar Berlanga is really good. I mean, we know he's better than bad. We know he's better than decent. I mean, after that streak of knockouts, won decisions against Marcelo Coceres, a pretty good fighter. He got dropped. Berlanga got dropped in that one, ended up coming back and winning the decision. He's beaten Steve Rolls, Romer Angulo, Jason Quigley, who he had some trouble with. So at that point, when he started winning several decisions in a row, people were like, okay, maybe he's not this elite knockout monster. But I kind of looked at that as, okay, but he's still winning the fights and he's rounding out his game. You see his jab developing. I don't think that he's been regressing in his actual skill set. It's just hard to really work on your tools when you're knocking everybody out in the first round. So the public really did get sour on him because he was getting these main event opportunities on ESPN through Top Rank and then on DAZN. But then he has what was kind of seen to be a slight step-up fight against regionally good fighter Petrak McCrory, who at the time was a hard-hitting, undefeated Irish fighter who was about the same height as Berlanga. So we're like, okay, these are two, bangers. Let's see what happens. And Edgar Berlanga, after, he absorbed some good shots. I think that Berlanga does have a pretty good chin, but he ended up knocking McCrory out in the 6th round. That was his first knockout in like 5 fights. So it was kind of like, okay, that Edgar Berlanga is back. He looked good in his boxing. He threw a ton of jabs, meaningful jabs, and then he stopped McCrory in the 6th round. So that got him the Canelo opportunity. And again, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It's like you go from Petrak McCrory and that's a win that earns you a shot against Canelo. Made no sense at all. The only aspect of it that made sense was that he is a name. He is a boxing famous fighter. He's somebody who, if you're watching another fight and he's in the crowd, they will cut to him in the crowd among the others and spotlight him for a second. So from that standpoint, it made a little bit of sense. But Canelo could sell well pretty much against anybody. But again, he's also a New Yorker with a lot of bravado, so that does a good amount in selling the fight. So I get it again from that standpoint. But from a X's and O's, sweet science, what have you accomplished standpoint, no. So in that regard, the hate that he has earned is a little bit fair. But I'm sure he ain't tripping. He's kind of leaning into the villain role. We see this build up between him and Sheeraz where he's pointing the invisible gun at Sheeraz and he's grabbing on his junk and he's talking all kinds of trash. Like, we see what he's doing and it's working well for his profile. And since that Canelo loss, by the way, he did have one more comeback fight. It was a first round knockout against Jonathan Gonzalez-Ortiz, somebody who looked like, I think he had just lost a ton of weight. He had no business in the ring with Edgar Berlanga. So Berlanga does have a win coming into this fight with Sheeraz. And this, again, this fight is an interesting matchup because I feel like if one of these two guys wins in impressive fashion, not like in some, oh, he won, but he didn't deserve to get the decision type of win, but in impressive fashion, I feel like it catapults either one of them. Now, Berlanga's the biggest name right now, but Sheeraz, with, you know, the backing of Turki Al-Sheikh, being a Pakistani/Indian, I think his mother's Indian, Pakistani-Indian Brit, that could go a long way. I mean, Amir Khan was a Pakistani English fighter. So yeah, if Sheeraz beats a name in Berlanga, especially if he looks good doing it, that's going to launch Sheeraz. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they go straight from Sheeraz win over Berlanga to Canelo versus Sheeraz. I'm almost certain that's what would happen next, depending on if Canelo continues to fight in whatever happens between he and Terence Crawford. And it's also interesting, Berlanga versus Sheeraz, that Sheeraz is such a physical anomaly. He was 6'3" at 154. Think about it. Sebastian Fundora 6'5" at 154, but Sheeraz was 6'3" at 154. He started buzzing a little bit regionally, at least. I remember online boxing analyst / gamblers advisory. Shoot, to me, he's a boxing icon. Richard Dwyer was talking about Hamzah Sheeraz back when he was still at 154. He since went to 160, got some meaningful wins there. He stopped Liam Williams in the first round. He stopped Ammo Williams in the middle to late rounds, and that was a high-profile fight on that Queensberry versus Matchroom 5-on-5. Very good win for Hamzah Sheeraz. And then after that, he beat Tyler Denny in the first round after Tyler Denny just had a stoppage win over Felix Cash, who was kind of buzzing for a minute. I don't know if he'll ever get his career back on track. He had some personal issues take him out of the ring for like multiple years. So I don't know if we'll see the same Felix Cash that stopped Denzel Bentley a few years ago. But yeah, Tyler Denny stopped Felix Cash, then fights Hamzah Sheeraz and gets stopped, not in the first round, it was the second round that Sheeraz stopped Tyler Denny. So yeah, between the stoppage over Liam Williams, Austin Ammo Williams, and Tyler Denny, yeah, that raised Sheeraz's profile. And the fights before that, his two before those three were both second round knockouts. So yeah, this guy was looking like an offensive juggernaut. Then he gets a title shot against Carlos Adames, and I think it's fair to say most people who view that fight thought that Carlos Adames deserved a decision win over Hamzah Sheeraz. I certainly did. They ruled it a split draw. So Adames did keep his title, but it would really help Adames' profile if he was rewarded with that win. So that draw was a little bit of a setback for Hamzah Sheeraz, especially because of how he looked. He looked like it was Adames walking him down. Adames behind a jab. You know, Hamzah Sheeraz wasn't really letting one of his hands go. I think he said that he had an injury to one of his hands, which I'm only assuming is 100% better. But he said that that was one of the reasons he wasn't letting his hands go. Now, Sheeraz has a nice left hand and a nice right hand, but they're not equal. He does fire a nice, accurate, straight right, but that left hand, he fights in an orthodox stance, but his lead left hand between the jab and it's a power jab. It's a jab where he seems like he's able to sit on his back foot and kind of throw it like a jab hook. And he could also kind of turn his elbow upward and face it downward, because keep in mind, a lot of the fighters that he's been fighting against are significantly shorter than him. So he'll turn that punch downward like that. And it's a really, really nice punch. And again, even the jab should be viewed as a power punch. Look at how it was backing Ammo Williams up. I thought that it was the jab, not the hooks, but the jab that was changing the fight against Ammo Williams, who had some really good moments earlier in the fight. He kind of rocked Hamzah Sheeraz, and Sheeraz has been down before in his career. It was against Francisco Torres, but he ended up stopping Torres in the 5th round. So he pretty much took that knockdown well and beat the hell out of Torres, stopped him. But yeah, I cannot overstate how blessed that lead left hand is, especially given his height and reach. Now, between Berlanga and Sheeraz, Sheeraz is going to have a 2-inch height advantage, so it's not as big a discrepancy as most of his opponents. Again, this is his 168-pound debut. So 6'3" Sheeraz against 6'1" Berlanga. In terms of reach, I believe it's something like 75-inch reach for Sheeraz to 73-inch reach for Edgar Berlanga. So it's a 2-inch reach advantage. So 2 inches in height, 2 inches in reach. It's not insignificant, but it's not the freakish advantages that he had in his past fights at 154 and 160. So my questions coming into this are, what is Sheeraz's chin like? Like, again, he's been dropped. He got rocked early against Ammo, but he's fighting Edgar Berlanga here. And from a power standpoint, those guys don't hold a candle to Edgar Berlanga. Like, this is a whole different animal. I say what you want about his sweet science skills, his opponent quality before the Canelo fight. The guy could thump, period. And when you look at Sheeraz's defense, he keeps a high guard. Okay, that's going to pick some things off, especially if you're fighting somebody way shorter than you. He leans back a lot. He's able to get out of the way with the high guard and leaning back. Well, what's that going to do to a 6'1" guy who's stepping to you and really trying to get on that front foot when he's launching his attacks? I really question how Sheeraz's style of defense and the durability of his chin. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't have a chin. I'm saying we don't really know. Again, we know he's been down. We know he's been rocked. But it's an open question to me how he's going to handle Berlanga's power. Once Berlanga's got a thumping jab. We just talked about Sheeraz's jab. Berlanga's got a powerful and still improving jab. And he's getting confident in it. Like, he was rocking Canelo's head back with some of those jabs. Now, Canelo was rolling with a lot of Berlanga's power shots because I don't see Berlanga as having a lot of deception in his game. I mean, he could launch that right hand. He could jab, and then bam, throw the right. But he doesn't do a lot of effective feinting. I think that Sheeraz is a slightly better feinter between the two. But, you know, Sheeraz, I mean, you could argue that Ammo Williams is his best win. Ammo Williams, to me, doesn't have a lot of deception in his game. I mean, he's a southpaw, so he could like jab, and then out of nowhere, just throw that left hand. But once you see his punch patterns, I don't think he's going to do too much to trick you. Same goes for Berlanga. Once you see what his punch patterns are, it's pretty much, okay, stay out of the way of this, stay out of the way of that, look out for that. But he's not going to like I've seen Hamzah Sheeraz against Ammo Williams feint with his left shoulder like he's going to throw a jab, but he throws nothing. So in a millisecond after that feint, boom, he throws the right and then the left on top of it. So in what looked like it was going to start off with a 1, ended up being a 2-1 with a simple twitch of the shoulder. Edgar Berlanga doesn't have too much of that in his arsenal. He also gets criticized, he being Berlanga, for having slow feet. He doesn't have fast feet, that's for damn sure, but they're either improving or they're not that slow. Now, he doesn't have intricate feet like Manny Pacquiao's ability to step. He doesn't have that, but he's got good enough feet to kind of bounce in and out. And he covers a lot of ground with his bounce too. So if he wants to get out of range, he could get way out of range. If he wants to come right back in range, he could come right back in range. Now, depending on who he's fighting, he's more aggressive against some guys than others. I feel like if you've earned his respect, then you've got a different Berlanga. You've got somebody who's then operating behind a jab, more so methodical about picking his shots. It was that way against Canelo. It was that way against Jason Quigley. We've seen that before. Also, Edgar Berlanga could be a little bit of a head case in the ring. We know how he acts, at least, outside of the ring. In the ring, we've seen him get flustered to the point where he bit Romer Angulo. He elbowed Petrak McCrory. These are clear signs of frustration. I really wonder if Hamzah Sheeraz, who really gets ticking, if he starts controlling and dictating the terms of the exchange, if Berlanga starts really eating that hard Sheeraz jab, which I'm not saying that he's going to put Berlanga down with it, although a knockdown either way wouldn't surprise me. In fact, a knockout either way, well, it would surprise me more if Sheeraz stopped Berlanga than if Berlanga stopped Sheeraz. But these guys, I'm convinced, can at least hurt each other. So if Berlanga ends up being outquicked or outfoxed by Sheeraz, I wonder how quickly he's going to show that frustration in a non-boxing way. Like, I know he's putting on the, hey, I'm boss, this is my division. I'm the big bad wolf in here between these two. if he tastes some clean Sheeraz punches, I'm sure you're going to get like a pretty tepid Berlanga, at least in the wake of that combination that might have landed cleanly. But I actually think that Berlanga has a jab to nearly match Sheeraz's jab. We'll see. If they get in here and it looks like Sheeraz is able to stay out of harm's way while hitting Berlanga cleanly with some nice lead left hands and able to kind of drop that right hand when he wants to on occasion, if he's able to start teeing off on Berlanga, then damn, okay, Sheeraz might be better than we even thought he was. But I actually think that Berlanga's jab is going to be competitive in this jab battle. And if it is, I think that's bad news for Hamzah Sheeraz. I think Berlanga is going to do better at taking Sheeraz's power than vice versa. And although I think Sheeraz is going to have some promising moments, I think he's going to redden Berlanga's face. Again, he might even drop Berlanga. But even if he drops Berlanga, say early, like in the first 3 to 4 rounds, and it gets everybody's attention, this is in New York City. This is in Berlanga's hometown. I know it's in Queens and not Brooklyn, but it's in New York City. If Berlanga gets dropped, that will be like a huge occasion, right? I could see Berlanga, once he's recovered, putting his foot on the gas, starting to walk Sheeraz down, and then starting to land his meaningful punches. And once Berlanga, if he starts ticking, and if he starts gaining confidence in his right hand and in his left hook, and if he goes to Sheeraz's body with some regularity, and again, his corner preaches, jab, jab, jab. I think that jab's going to be out there. I think that Berlanga is going to end up doing some real damage to Sheeraz. I'm actually going to go Edgar Berlanga, not only to win this fight, but to win it via stoppage. I think Berlanga is going to stop Hamzah Sheeraz. Again, I love this matchup. I was like, whoa, when I saw this. I'm like, damn, Sheeraz is down to go up and fight Berlanga. Damn, Berlanga's down to win this. I'm not going to say it's a lose-lose situation, because if he beats Sheeraz, that is significant, and it would by far be his second best win. But if Sheeraz comes up from 160 to 168 and knocks off Berlanga, that's a bad look for Berlanga. So there's a lot of pressure on both of these guys, but especially on Berlanga at this stage of his career, because it's kind of like, okay, you got your big golden goose opportunity against Canelo. It didn't work out. You made it the distance, but you didn't beat Canelo. Okay, barely anybody beats Canelo. But what's up? What's up now? What are you gonna make of your career? Is this just a cash out operation? Or are you actually going to try to work towards some level of greatness here? This fight is super meaningful in that story. We'll see how it plays out, but I think Berlanga is going to get it done. I think he's going to drop Sheeraz. I think he's going to stop Sheeraz, probably in the middle rounds. Again, it's an open question how Sheeraz takes Berlanga's power, but if Berlanga, again, has success in landing the jab, and then the other punches start to follow, bad news for Sheeraz, and Berlanga's going to get him out of there. I'm not certain of anything. This is boxing, but I feel pretty confident that Berlanga is going to get the stoppage here because, again, Sheeraz's chin, if it has been tested, he didn't pass it with flying colors, and Berlanga thumps, absolutely thumps. And, maybe Sheeraz does feel more comfortable because, again, he's 6'3". Maybe his body and even his chin, perhaps, are going to be better at 168. I just have to see it to believe it. And he's going to be up against a bull here. We'll see what happens, but I'm going with Edgar Berlanga to beat Hamzah Sheeraz via mid-round stoppage. Let me know your thoughts on this very exciting and interesting, and let's keep it real, unexpected matchup. I like this fight card a lot. I'm going to try to do another preview on Alberto Puello versus Subriel Matias, and I might cover the David Morrell versus Kataev fight, maybe in a live chat or something. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.